we have a new name for the coronavirus. The World Health Organization has officially called it COVID-19. Co for corona, Vi for virus, D for disease, and 19 because it started last year. The name, though, of course, isn't the most pressing concern. On Monday in China, it suffered its highest number of deaths in one day. 103 people died just in Hubei province alone. The overall death toll in China is now over 1,000, and more than 40,000 people have been infected worldwide. If there's any encouraging news, what it comes in the form of this chart from the Chinese authorities, it shows that the rate of new infections has started to fall 20% day to day in the last 48 hours. Nonetheless, the World Health Organization remains concerned about it spreading, particularly in developing countries. Here's the latest update from the WHO's Director General.
If this virus makes it to a weaker health system, it will create havoc. To be honest, a virus is more powerful in creating political, economic and social upheaval than any terrorist attack.
Well, as you'd imagine, China continues to take a range of measures to try and control this virus. Let me show you some of the most recent pictures. This is in Wuhan, the city where the virus was first detected, and these trucks are firing disinfectant all over the streets. We also have these pictures from inside one medical facility. We know thousands of patients are requiring treatment in Wuhan alone. And these pictures are also from Wuhan in a different hospital where, believe it or not, these are medics wearing full gear, as you can see, along with patients, all of whom are dancing together to try and boost morale. And we also have better news from these pictures. The people we're seeing getting into this particular ambulance are people we're told have been released from hospital because they've recovered from the virus. Well, health officials in China are also warning there's a particular problem in rural areas. The doctors there don't have enough equipment, and they want these village doctors to be given face masks and medical supplies to ensure the doctors themselves don't become infected. Now, they may have to be patient on this front, given the pressures we know are being exerted on Chinese supply chains. On that issue, here's Stephen McDonnell in Beijing.
There's a crucial shortage of beds and equipment. People have been sleeping in gymnasiums and the like if they're sick. They're sort of setting up these kind of crude temporary hospitals for to act as isolation wards. And so, yeah, it is a pretty dire situation inside Hubei province, but right across China. I mean, it's funny, if you could see in detail, like out the window behind me, there's nobody out on the streets in Beijing either. People do not want to leave their homes. And in a funny way, it's the way the government would like it to be, because by not having people gathering, by having so many people in this city working from home or having staggered working arrangements so they're not all piling into the underground train system at the same time, does seem to have slowed the spread of this virus.
Now, we know many hundreds of foreign nationals have chosen to leave the epicenter of the outbreak, Wuhan in Hubei province, but some have chosen to stay. We've been hearing from Doug Perez. He's a science and maths teacher from the US, but he's staying on alongside his Chinese girlfriend and his dog.
Going out, doing basic stuff is kind of like a game of Tetris. You really do have to stay 6 feet away from people. So when you walk outside, you're careful. You're cognizant of everything you do, everyone you interact with. You have to wear gloves, masks, etc. And we mostly rely on deliveries for groceries. We've stocked up. We could hold out for a couple months. Still, we need fresh fruits and vegetables. Sometimes we do have to make a grocery run, and that in of itself poses tremendous risks.
Well, in recent days, Chinese authorities have been increasingly criticized for their handling of the crisis. In particular, that's been driven by the death of the doctor who in December warned that a possible virus was emerging, and that information was suppressed by the authorities, and his death caused widespread public anger. Well, China's now sacked several senior officials over their handling of this coronavirus outbreak. Let's hear more on that from Stephen McDonnell again.
Somebody had to take the fall because there's been a lot of criticism, especially in terms of dealing with the early fallout of this emergency in the city of Wuhan in the province of Hubei. So the Communist Party General Secretary and also the director of that province's local health commission, they've both been sacked. But I think we don't expect it to end there.
Now, the Chinese government is well aware how closely its actions are being watched around the world. On that issue, here's Imogen Fuchs at the WHO's headquarters in Geneva.
There always is some politics in these issues. China's very sensitive about criticism that it may not have told the truth at the beginning, that it may not be handling the virus well. Taiwan is asking, as it always does when global health matters, to come up to be treated as its own entity, its own individual country, which of course it is not recognised as such by the UN bodies. The WHO has said, please put politics aside. Information is going to be shared with everybody. Anybody who needs support will get it, whether country, public health authority, vaccine specialist. We all need to work together.
Now, this graphic shows the number of reported cases worldwide. Japan on 161, Singapore 45, Thailand 32, South Korea 28. Those are the top 4 aside from China. And some of those cases in Japan include those on board a cruise ship. We've talked about this a lot on Outside Source. The ship remains quarantined in the port of Yokohama. There are 135 confirmed cases on board, but over 3,500 other passengers and crew must also wait on board for at least 2 weeks to pass. So that's one ship that's in the news. There's another in Thailand where passengers have been prevented from disembarking from a Dutch cruise ship which is currently in Bangkok. Here it is. It's called the Westerdam. There are no confirmed infections on board, and initially it had been given permission to enter the ports, but after protests on social media that decision was changed, all of which means this ship has had an extremely complicated story because it's already been turned away from ports in Japan, Taiwan and the Philippines. Well, for more on why the Thai authorities are so concerned about this particular ship, here's Nopon Wonganan from the BBC Thai service.
It seems that the Thai authorities have changed their mind after an outcry on the social media on Monday. I think the main concern for the Thai authorities is this. They are afraid of the repetition of the situation in Thailand, like what happened in Japan now. If you look at the latest figures, Japan has the highest number of coronavirus infections after China. Japan has about 161 so far as of today, and 135 of them came from passengers aboard this cruise ship off the Japanese coast, and that ship and the ship that was supposed to be coming to Thailand, they are owned by the same company, which is an American company.
Now, here in the UK, this British businessman, Steve Walsh, has been centre of attention. He's thought to have infected 11 people after attending a conference in Singapore and then travelling to France and then on to the UK. He's now fully recovered. He says his thoughts are with those that he infected. He's also released a statement in which he says, "I was advised to attend an isolated room at hospital despite having no symptoms and subsequently self-isolated at home as instructed." Well, we've also been given a broader briefing by the UK's Health Secretary, Matt Hancock.
Dealing with this disease is a marathon, not a sprint. The situation will get worse before it gets better. We will be guided by the science. Be in no doubt, we will do everything that is effective to tackle this virus and keep people safe.
Well, for more on how the government here in the UK is preparing for the potential spread of the virus, here's the BBC's health editor, Hugh Pitt.
Matt Hancock, the Health Secretary, said there would be more capital funding. That's money for investment available for what he said would be urgent works by the NHS to invest in isolation facilities in hospitals and other facilities. Now, no sum of money has been attached to that, but I'm told by sources at the department this is asking hospitals and other trusts, other organisations to come forward and say this is what we need to finish off these pods that were first reported on last week. That is providing a facility if a patient comes in with suspected coronavirus, they can be isolated safely, and if it's proved negative, they can go on their way. If the test is positive, then obviously they'll go to another specialist facility to be treated. He said the whole thing globally would get worse before it got better, which is probably in line with international thinking, but he went on to say that he thought that the UK was doing all it possibly could to protect its citizens and ensure the virus didn't get out of hand.